Woo! It's cold outside. How's it going? I'm American Boathead. When it's cold outside, you want to be inside. And to keep from going crazy and getting cabin fever, my suggestion to you is build yourself a mini boat. Today I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things that you might want to know when you're considering your own build. So let's go! First of all, you're going to want to do some research. Get on YouTube and look up people such as Paul Elkins, American Boathead with Half-Craft Mini Boats, and Andrew Jones, as well as a few others. They sell plans online. Speaking of online plans, there's tons and tons of free plans and other resources from the 1950s all the way up to 2016. On my Facebook page or group, Mini Boats and More, we post different resources for free mini boat plans and whatnots. So go check them out. Today I'm going to talk to you about some tips and tricks and also remind you that we got a boat show. That's right, a virtual mini boat show. 2018 is going to be a great year. And we're going to have at least 5 entries that I know of so far, if not hundreds by the time September 1st rolls around of 2018. Look at the video entitled 2018 Mini Boat Show for more details. Right here I have with me my favorite boat. This is my favorite boat for a few different reasons. If you didn't notice already, this is the exact same shape as my most popular model, the Model C, that had over 1.3 million views to date because of its shape, I'm guessing. This one is modeled after it. I actually traced the exact same front, but in the back it gets a little different. So my plan with this boat was to build the most user-friendly, most stylish, easy to build boat that I had so far, because my plan was to try to make money off of it, sell plans for it, sell the actual boat. And there was a few little drawbacks of the Model C that I didn't like. Number one was stability, which I overcame by making the top skinnier than the bottom instead of the bottom skinnier than the top. Now I still had to have curves and sexy lines, so I tried to sweep it on back as best I could. But the bottom is almost twice as wide, or probably 50% wider than the Model C, making it much more stable. The other benefit is there's a flat transom, keeping you from having to angle here and here, whereas my other boat comes out to here, which I'll show you in a minute if you're not familiar. Both of these boats have an inboard mounted trolling motor down here. You with me, camera guy? But this one, with the flat transom, it'd be easy to mount it right here and not have to do the inboard mounted system, which is prone to leaking and it just is complicated. I like it though because it looks better. Here I have a removable steering wheel to make it easier to get in and out of, because these are tight, not gonna lie. This one also has a Bluetooth speaker there. Ooh, look how shiny. Ooh, look how shiny. One of the biggest benefits of building mini boats is you can fit 5 or 6, 8, 9, 10 in your garage. And you don't have to be limited to one. This is my Miss Courtney here. This is my most popular boat. This is the one I sell patterns for. And I also sell dimensions, but this is the one featured in my building guide as well. As you can see, it's the same shape as the Model B that I just showed you, but it gets narrower at the bottom. It's also inboard mounted. I limit my boats to 8 feet long, except for my 2-seater here, because on this one, since this repurposed plywood here was 7.5 feet tall for a typical basement, I had to make a seam right here to avoid having a seam here or here on the back. But in my Model C plans, I make it 8 feet long so that there's no seam needed. I need to clean my garage. This is a boat I call Tanglewood. This is actually my first mini boat. And as you can see, it looks a lot like Paul Elkin's boat with a little different lines. And no windshield and no cabin on top. This boat I really like because it's super light. I can lift it up by myself, throw it in the back of a truck, probably in the back of a station wagon, Klaus. And it's got a nice small motor here, only a 17-pound thrust, and it goes faster than my Miss Courtney. One of the reasons it goes faster is because of this curved up bow, rides on top of the water rather than plowing through it like the Model B and the Model C and my two-seater. So that's one of the benefits there. Downside is that you barely have any room. It's like a kayak with a battery in between your feet, or in between your legs and your crotch area, crotchal region. You can either put inflatable pad. I actually might be sponsored by a memory foam coccyx pillow by Ergo that will support your bum, save your tailbone from aching when you get out, and save a lot of room in here, because the higher you get up, the less center of gravity is working for you. You start to get more and more tippy. So that's why I don't really put big seats. I usually sit on the floor. By the way, all of my boats are flat bottom. It makes it 10 times easier than building a V, makes it twice as fast. And you don't need a V unless you're going on to get on plane. The only thing a V will do is raise your center of gravity once again and add complexity to the boat. I'm gonna get down here without killing myself. This here is my two-seater. I call it a two-seater, but it's also a big seater, meaning that you can take this out and have one big dude sit right in the middle. Super stable. It's like 33 or 36 inches wide. I can stand up on this, and it's more stable than a stand-up paddleboard. It's freaking awesome. It's a lot of fun. I have this set up differently. I'll get into motor setups here in a second. But it's a nice two-seater. I haven't actually taken somebody else out in it, and I don't even have any footage of me in it besides before it was done. I took this on a cruise with my buddy Andrew Jones, who, if you haven't seen the Great American Boat Tour 2017, he is the bravest mini boater around. And I met him down at the local lake, and we cruised around, and it was a whole hell of a lot of fun. I was laughing the whole time. I was smiling. I had a goddamn good time. Thanks, Andrew. I'd say I have an artist's eye, and I've pretty good feel for design. It's getting better and better. But I also kind of skimp out on parts. I kind of use whatever I have at the time because I'm impatient to get it ready to go as fast as I can. So like here I used a broom handle, or a painting stick, and I made my own steering wheel out of a piece of plywood. And it turns out that it's not quite the optimal way to do everything. The better way is the whole pulleys and string system, and I might go over that in a second. But this one can also be removed somewhat like this. You see here, this is a fish tape used in electrical applications. It's kind of a push-pull thing, just like in a real boat with the Teleflex system. Here's a really good tip. These seats right here usually have some legs coming off of them. You just cut those off, get it from a thrift store for $2. Throw it in there and you're good to go. Not near as nice as the memory foam butt pad though. So to mount my inboard motors, I simply bolt the 2x6 to the middle of the floor there, drill a hole, bore a hole, and put a through hole right through there. Put my trolling motor right to the 2x6 and then hook my steering up. One of the things I like most about the two-seater is that I don't have any steering linkage or any mechanical linkage like that. It's all electrical, fly-by-wire. Here you see one of my throttle controllers here. Goes to the starboard, and my other one goes to the port side. And I did the same thing but on a smaller scale twice. You can see I bolted 2x6 to the floor, put a through hole, which I'm calling it a through hole, but it's actually a drain for a sink, bolted through a hole with a trolling motor through that. You can avoid all that through hole bowl by just mounting motors to the back. It doesn't look too bad. I thought it would be super eyesore, but it actually looks fine. Definitely got to put a windshield on these boats. They just look 100 times more like a mini boat than when you don't have it. My little boat there doesn't have one, and it just looks like a kayak or a wooden kayak. But with a windshield or a cabin on like Paul Elkins has, it looks freaking cool. One solution I found for covering this edge, which can sometimes not be very pretty and have a lot of screws, and a lot of people want to Bondo this and sand it and make it all cool, but then they gotta paint the whole damn thing and cover all this beautiful wood grain. I actually, on all my boats, use this weather stripping, which gets beat up hitting into docks and whatnot. You can see here, here's the profile of it. Normally it's to keep air from going in between a door and a door jamb, but I use it to make a nice clean line and protect it. See here, I use the same thing. Cut an angle at the front here, screw it in. Little screws every 6 or 8 inches, and it actually covers some of these screws, but if these are even, they actually kind of look cool because they're nice and shiny and chrome. Yeah, I love the wood grain. Now, I only fiberglass the bottom of the boat and the bow. This keeps this angle nice and strong and sturdy. But for the most part, the fiberglass is only needed to keep this epoxy resin from developing cracks that grow and let water in. It does add some strength, but these things are pretty strong for anybody 200 pounds or less. Actually, my brother weighed over 200 pounds and had no problem. This thing didn't creak or moan or anything. But the reason I don't put it on everything, because it does become quite transparent, is because you can see seams and overlaps and somewhat of a little texture. So you can see, since there's no piece big enough to just cover this side to side, it's 36 inches wide, unless you get something big enough. You're going to have either a seam right there, seam down the middle, or 2 seams or something worse. And it'll look fine, but at certain angles you'll see just like this little grid pattern. And if your epoxy isn't super thick, sometimes you'll even see a little bit sticking out. You can see my attention to detail, or lack thereof. On the bottom I use a porch paint. There's other products that are better. And this is a coat hanger. It's really good to get. You can get miniature cleats or other pieces of hardware to add on here to tie your boat off. You guys have probably seen in my other videos how bad I am with tying my boats off. I've almost lost a couple. Oh yeah, back to the design on this one. This bend right here was a little too extreme to go bend in here. If you see, it's wider at the bottom than it is at the top. So actually it goes from bending in to straight up and down. to bending down, out, in, top goes out, whatever. So, also it's over 8 feet long, but I think I could have got it in one piece, just about. But when I tried to bend it, it cracked. So what I did is I cut a 22 or 45 degree angle there and used 3 different 6-inch pieces of the same stuff, actually the same board. So these cuts were already made to match up right, and they were easily bent because they're overlapping and they're so small that they'll twist and turn and curve. This is 1/4-inch plywood for my floor. I use 5/8 because it's not as expensive as 3/4 and it's much stronger than 1/4-inch. These 1/4-inch panels, you can get marine grade plywood, but these are just underlayment, 1/4-inch basically. And one thing to remember with that is that it's really cheap, and this is like a veneer and there's layers. And if you start sanding through, you'll start to see a glue layer, which is red on this, which is very unfortunate. This has one coat of some kind of cedar colored stain. This has none. This is just a natural color. I wanted a little bit of a difference there. So you can put stain on before you put the epoxy on. What I do is I flip the boat over, fiberglass the whole bottom up to about here, and it takes almost a whole mixture, these two put together. I have links to all this on my AmericanBoathead.com page. I have a box here, but mix half of that up, let it set up overnight, impregnate the epoxy or the fiberglass with the epoxy. I do a quick layer of epoxy, lay the fiberglass, push the fiberglass down, and kind of another layer of epoxy over it. And then I flip the old gal over and do an epoxy on the top, and I use a whole mixture on there, and it gets so thick that it starts dripping over, and I spread that out plus add more of the mixture on the sides and just kind of keep working it and get the runs out. This one I did a lot more keeping the runs out. After it starts sticking and bunching up, you might as well just call it a day because it's setting up and you're just going to ruin it. On my first attempt here, you can see I have a lot more runs. My second attempt, which was this Miss Courtney, was even worse. What happened there is I wound up, here's a bare spot even. Here's a big old run in it. Fiberglass isn't even laid down right. It's really nice to try to get good clean edge in there to keep those furries out. Well, I'm getting a little long-winded here, and I'm going to save some of the other questions I've been asked for another video. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. Go to this website right here, 2018 mini boat show, virtual mini boat show, where you can go and vote, and you can enter your boat, or you can just vote, or you can just watch the madness. It's fun to look at. I'm sure the year after everybody's voted on everything, there's going to be people that are still watching that will just get a kick out of it or get ideas for their own boats. Also, speaking of that, Mini Boats and More on Facebook is an awesome page, and we're getting a lot of members already, and me and a couple of other guys are administrators on the page, and we're just having a good old time. There's people sharing plans, patterns, their own builds. There's been a couple people that have shared the Miss Courtney build that I offer. That just fills me with pride, gosh dang it. Don't go crazy this winter. Go build a boat. Thumbs up. Peace out.